Two minds, one bite, darling, we're alive. Ooh, ooh. This is John and James love. Turn it up, feel the rise from the top to the night. We're a spark, we're the light. John and James love, lock it in, don't think twice. Every laugh, it's all the time. It's your time. Ooh.
Hello and welcome to John and James Live. My name is John Hastings. I'm with the main man, Mr. James Celo. And today, James Celo, we're going to be talking about ADHD. Are we moving into an ADHD society? Do you have ADHD, James?
I'm pretty sure I do. It's not been diagnosed, but I think I do. My wife keeps telling me I do. I must have.
I think I do as well. Does everybody have ADHD at the moment, James? What's going on? Tell us what ADHD is, first of all, James. Let's get to the crux of
the
this,
definition.
I know. Some people do love a label, don't they? And this is being bandied about, especially on LinkedIn. People do love an ADHD label. I'm interested in it, what it is, why is it becoming more prevalent, or is it just being diagnosed more, and what it tells us about our environment and what potentially could be causing these type of things. So what is it, James, first of all?
Well, firstly, I think I'd probably like to just say I don't know what neurotypical is. I don't know, maybe let's start with the definition of what neurotypical is, because I don't know what that is. Yeah. I don't know what that is and how that's defined as anybody's neurotypical. I very much doubt anybody is neurotypical. But so ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. So the definition, according to ChatGPT, is a persistent pattern of inattention and or hyperactivity impulsivity that interferes with functioning or development.
Okay, so that is a very broad definition, isn't it? Because when you talk about neurodivergence, James, you're right. Everybody, what's the threshold? Because everybody's so different, aren't they?
Different. But it says, that the symptoms must be present for 6 months, at least 6 months.
Yeah.
Be inconsistent with developmental level, whatever that means, negatively impact social, academic, or occupational functioning. Be present in 2 or more settings, for example, home, school, when you're at work, and have started before the age of 12.
Yeah.
So I suppose it's kind of similar, isn't it, to things like dyslexia? And certainly when I was a kid at school, dyslexia wasn't known about. People didn't really define dyslexia. You were either kind of, dare I say it, thick, or you were intelligent. And if you had issues with learning, that wasn't really identified. So yeah, it's interesting, mate, isn't it?
And like you said, right at the beginning, comes to mind is, James, is if you put an animal in a cage and then start labeling that animal's symptoms about how they're reacting within that cage. So first of all, you said about it's school and work. Well, we know modern schooling system, it's not humanly natural to just sit quietly in a class and consume information for 6 hours a day in a boring format. That's not normal. So you're judging someone based on something that's not a normal, naturally functioning environment. Then you talk about modern work, where most of it potentially we can say is a lot of BS in the modern world, I would say. Does it need to exist? Again, people are spending so much time on screens. isn't it just normal behavior to not be able to keep your attention on some of these mundane tasks? Maybe it's reverse. Maybe the people that are able to concentrate are the ones who are a bit mentally not right. Would you think, James?
Politically correct, that one, mate. Wow. I think it's fascinating. It's fascinating to me because learning styles, I would think learning styles would be predicated on how interested you are in the subject. Have you got something? And I had teachers at school and they were incredible teachers. I had some bad teachers and I had some incredible teachers. And the subjects that I enjoyed the most were the ones where the teachers were clearly engaged, passionate about the subject they were teaching, and could bring you along with that enthusiasm. And the ones, the subjects that I really struggled in, the teachers just didn't look like they wanted to be there. They looked like they couldn't wait for the lesson to be over. They just wanted to go through the motions, tick the boxes, and go home.
Yeah.
So, who knows, mate? I mean, clearly there's a clinical diagnosis. There's a series of tests, procedures that will come up with that diagnosis. And I know they've got a massive backlog in terms of diagnosing these conditions. But again, I'd argue that the majority of people have something. They're on the scale or the spectrum somewhere along the line, that they have trouble focusing on things that really are not very interesting. Now, that's not to diminish, and that's not to, say that this isn't a real thing, but I think it's a layman's perspective on well, what am I interested in? Do I struggle to concentrate on something I really don't find exciting? Now, I've gotten into flow state. I've done art at school, and I would lose hours in doing something like that. I wouldn't be thinking remotely about, where I was, what I was supposed to be doing. I would just be engrossed in that creative process. And, other things kind of fell by the wayside, in that moment in time.
There's other tasks where you just can't concentrate for, more than a couple of minutes, isn't there? Depending on the environment, the stimulus, the context of your situation. I like Dr. Gabor Mate's work on ADHD, talking about attunement during childhood and things that maybe shouldn't have happened that did or didn't happen but should. And the way it's a bit of a coping mechanism, so you're tuning yourself out to the present moment to distract yourself because it's too difficult to deal with. So you become, your attention gets diverted. It's a protection mechanism. And then I guess on the other side of that, you've got that buildup of activity or energy that can then get pushed out into a different direction. So I think maybe our environment, if you was to create an ADHD society and you was a mad scientist, we wouldn't be far off in perfecting that at the moment, would we, James? How many billions of pounds are spent on the best psychologists in the world trying to get you addicted to social media?
Yeah.
There's an attention race in the economy for profit. Everything you touch is an attention race, whether it's you trying to sell your own business, us trying to sell this live experience, whether it's social media, people just trying to hook you into the algorithm to get those advertising dollars. It's so much is built around diverting your attention, isn't it? So can you be surprised that in combination with these massive companies that are spending money to divert your attention, and then the breakdown of communities, house pricing is so expensive now. Two people have to go to work, the breakdown of relationships, people are becoming more individualistic instead of community orientated. And then you've got to go to school and then sit down and listen to potentially boring classes for 6 hours. And then there's monetary incentives around the medication that's given for every single symptom that you've got, whether you're feeling depressed or you can't concentrate or you're obese. It's like every symptom has got some monetary benefactor. As the scientist, James, could you create a better experiment to have these outcomes?
As a scientist, I'm clearly not a scientist. But what I do find interesting and endlessly fascinating again is whether ADHD was recognized or existed prior to the advent of the internet and social media. Now, clearly it would have been present in some form because, you know, the human brain has been evolving over millennia, and we keep hearing that it can't keep up with the speed of technology, that it's being bombarded with all of this stimulus, and it was never designed to cope with it.
Yeah.
But when you think about how distracted we are and how, like you were saying, these companies are vying for our attention and the sophisticated ways in which they're doing it, that we can be forgiven for being distracted and going down a particular route, and then all of a sudden going, I'm just going to scroll social media for a bit. And I do it. Absolutely, I do it. And when something gets a bit too hard or emotionally I'm a bit triggered by something, or I'm thinking about, you know, the kids or work or money or something like that, I find myself reaching for the device just to distract myself.
Who doesn't know James? Who hasn't been on a doom scroll? I would say
sure
99% of people.
Majority of people. And if you're not, or if you say you aren't, you know, I don't know if you're in denial, or, you know, you've successfully cracked the algorithm. But I've just noticed it. And I think until you start to kind of just do that self-assessment of going, geez, I am really spending a lot of time now on the screen.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's getting longer and longer that before I'm suddenly realizing what I'm doing, but I'll come to this realization and go, oh shit, you know, that was a long time. That was like half an hour that I've just lost. And all I've done is just flick through stuff, you know, whether it's on this platform, LinkedIn, or, so I only have LinkedIn on my phone, which I've had to, that's a conscious decision for me to just have LinkedIn on my phone. But I've got Instagram, I've got Twitter, which I never really go on my iPad. I looked at TikTok potentially to do some other bits and pieces on it. I haven't actually done anything with it, but that's on my iPad as well. And it's all that kind of thing. Well, you know, I should be on it. I should be doing stuff. And like, you know, you should be engaging on all the different platforms if you're going to have, you know, something along these lines, that if you've got a product or you've got something that we're doing in the social media sphere. And it's that situation where you think like, well, I will get to it, I will do it, but you don't. And then all you're doing is just passively consuming it.
Yeah.
So you're not actually using it.
And it is rewiring your brain fundamentally, isn't it?
Rewiring your brain.
Fundamentally, you are changing the chemistry
of
your brain. So if we're doing that as adults, what is happening to future generations or the children being brought up on these devices? I'm seeing it already with, you know, my children. I've seen it with my friends' younger children who are literally stuck to iPads. It's become like a pacifier for parents, hasn't it? If they're busy, stick them in front of the iPad. But all of these, a lot of these YouTube channels are again orchestrated to keep attention. So they're like 3-second bursts of activity and color, and it's all scientifically orchestrated to get you addicted to what's coming next. So
just yesterday, I mean, this is one of the reasons why we're having this conversation today. I was having a chat with somebody who has ADHD, and they were telling me that it's this constant stimulation, this thing that's going on all the time, whether it's listening to music, watching YouTube, Netflix. And depending on what they were doing at that moment in time, whether it was cooking or doing the housework or something like that, as to what platform they would choose. So with Reels, you know, it's just on a loop. So unless you scroll, it's going to play that video to you over and over again, and that gets annoying. So, you know, if you were doing something like cooking or looking at a recipe or something like that, you wouldn't necessarily go in. So that would be more kind of the YouTube format or Netflix. But if you're just there and these thoughts come into your head and you're kind of going, I don't want those thoughts, I don't want to have to deal with that right now because it's uncomfortable, then you probably go into that loop of scroll, just looking for something that's going to catch your attention. That kind of, you know, headline grabbing that used to be for newspapers. It would be the headline and then you'd read the article. Now it's just a visual representation of that. So I don't know that the format is any different. It's still looking for that way of grabbing your attention, but it's just become more and more sophisticated.
It's constant.
It feels like if you're on one particular reel or a video for more than a couple of seconds, then you're just going to get another one of exactly the same content,
you're in the
same
algorithm.
messaging. You're in that algorithm. And, you know, you can see how people's biases can be swayed in respect of, okay, well, that's my belief system. Maybe there's a grain of that. Maybe there's a little bit of an idea in my head that perhaps I think this particular way. You'll watch a video, it will come up, pop up, and it may have been based on a conversation you had with somebody else, because I'm pretty sure, you know, the system is listening into you. So you've had a conversation with somebody, a reel pops up, you'll watch that, and then because you're interested, you've got that little bit of a speck of an idea in your head that you'll get another one and another one and another one. And it's that affirmation, that confirmation of that particular stream of consciousness. That
is that then... ADHD though, James, or are you just talking about something else? It doesn't mean, because we have to separate a diagnosis from ADHD to something that could potentially be, you know, causing it or influencing it. It's a very blurry spectrum.
It feels like it's part and parcel. You know, to me, it all feels like the whole thing is just kind of meshed together.
Yeah.
That, you know, with issues with focusing on a particular task, or being distracted, or, you know, having that brain chemistry that takes you down that particular route, that all of these elements I've just been talking about seem to kind of coincide with that. You know, these things are there for everybody. And I guess is going to be to a greater or lesser degree of how you interact with it and the amount of time that you spend on it. I don't know that discipline necessarily comes into it. I think it's just a kind of realization and an awareness of what's going on to then sort of try and bring yourself back to going, like I said, I've been on this a lot longer than I'd anticipated.
Yeah, mine's crazy, James. If you looked at my screen time, some of it is just insane. It's like a pure addiction to it. But then I go on holiday, say I go, you know, see family in Armenia, a change of environment, all of my addictions fall away. So my environment is like conducive to my behavior. And when
is that because in London, you're somewhere new? Is that because you're interacting with people, you're looking at stuff you haven't seen, you're in an unfamiliar environment. Yeah. So you're having to deal with what's in front of you. Whereas when you're in your own flat, you're in your hometown, you know where everything is, you kind of know the scheme of things and the routine, that then maybe a little bit of boredom or complacency or whatever kind of creeps in. And because you're not on guard in that respect of having to go and navigate a new area or come into contact with people that you don't know, or it's a different language, then that is your immediate thing that's happening right then. And your brain then doesn't have capacity to think about anything else. But when you're in your home environment and everything's familiar, then the space kind of opens up, doesn't it? You've got more bandwidth. What do you think?
I would also say, you know, in my natural home environment, much more isolation, much more sort of lacking in community.
Yeah.
A lot more focus on work, which is ultimately more screen time all the time. So I would say it's probably a societal, environmental, personal disconnection, which sort of leads to the Gabor Mate thing, where addiction being, you know, the opposite of that being connection. So if I'm disconnected, I'm going to be addicted to certain things. And nowadays, a big thing I think is the paradox of choice and the infinite amount of choice. Whereas before, your father might have been a farmer and you become the next farmer, and you've got an actual structure and a job to do. You know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
Now you're in life and you're thinking of running a business, and you've got things changing every 5 minutes, and you think to yourself, what do I do? Do I become a branding guy? Do I become a plumber? Do I become an electrician? Do I become Mark's just turned up. Hey, Mark Gay said, how are you, sir? Mark's big on the ADHD thing. Mark's a genius video marketer, editor. Welcome, Mark. Yeah, it's a big conversation. I watched a couple of clips of Mark talking, and he said Mark was, I don't know if I should share, but we'll call it somebody else. Somebody else has put on medication, but they've changed their nutrition. They've got like nutrition all differences. And we know, James, being in the health and well-being backgrounds like ourselves, we know working with people, nutrition's changed massively, hasn't it, over the last 40, 50 years?
It's absolutely
quality
key.
of food.
It's just astonishing how, it shouldn't be astonishing, but it is, how much it impacts your state of mental health and well-being as to the quality of the diet that you have.
Of course.
Clearly there's other elements, but just
all these additives, all of the stuff they're injecting into the meats, the preservatives, the quality of the food, the pesticides, then we've got the packaging, we've got just the quality of food, and then our lack of movement, our lack of exercise. Then we've got an isolation. Then we've got environments where we've grown up and potentially with stressed parents trying to survive. So they haven't been able to give us this sort of childhood attunement that is necessary. Even if you're financially well off, you see people who are, messed up mentally because their parents have been so busy trying to figure out or provide and do stuff. They haven't been able to give that attention. And then people are in this world with infinite choice. It's like, what direction do I go? Do I drive the bus? Do I become a carpenter? Do I, is AI going to take my job? And then because you're so overwhelmed and you've got low capacity,
you then go into paralysis.
You go to paralysis. It's like, what the hell? Where do I move? Who can give me direction? And then is that ADHD? And then we're being addicted by these, like our phones, because that's like our release out of the present moment. It's such a concoction of context,
and look,
isn't it, James?
Just broke my finger. Clearly, we're not. This is not medical advice, chaps. We're not medical advisors. We're by no means. But I'd be fascinated to see what the sort of the checkbox criteria are to come up with a diagnosis around ADHD.
Yeah, Mark says, I'm investigating the idea that the vast majority of my ADHD symptoms are as a result of a zinc and B6 deficiency. So far, I seem to be proving it's true for me.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark. I'm not surprised. I reckon there are people out there who are more susceptible to certain things, aren't there, James? We've noticed it with clients. We got the clients who can eat carbohydrates more freely and they never put on weight, and the person who looks at a carbohydrate and they're putting on weight. I know it's meant to be like calories in, calories out, but it depends on your body type as well. There are certain people who are more predisposed to certain mental illnesses. I guess there is a spectrum of ADHD as well. But what Mark's saying around the vitamins, the B6, the zinc, I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised at all if there's a nutritional element that can basically like food and mood, and it changes your biochemistry in your brain and you're able to focus a lot better. Would you say that, James, as well?
Yeah. Look, there's so many different factors involved here. Nutrition being one of them. But that's a fundamental. But I think, quality of sleep is massive. I was listening and reading a bit of James Nestor's stuff about breath work and how, where food has become more processed and we're not chewing as much, and the development of the jaw and then the aperture of the mouth, and how much, with that and nose breathing as opposed to mouth breathing, all those kind of things directly impact our mental health and well-being, and directly correlates with sleep quality as well. So all of those sort of things taken into consideration with diet, all of those could be a way forward for certain people. I'm not saying everybody, but for certain people, as opposed to having to take medication. So, nothing, I think, is, when you think about how we are designed as human beings, that there's so many mechanisms that have become switched off because of modern living. That there's things that we still potentially don't understand in terms of kind of research that's still going on, how the mechanisms work. But, there are solutions that don't necessarily, I'm not saying by any means everything, but there are solutions that can be arrived at just purely by, looking at those kind of different pillars around diet, around exercise, around sleep, around breath work, around meditation.
Are we diagnosing the monkey in the cage though, James, here? Are we looking at the monkey in the cage and saying, oh, you've got this problem, you've got that problem, without actually saying, okay, look at this society that you're in, the isolation, the need to pay your bills constantly, the need to create for some type of monetary need, doing something secondary away from the actual, real Maslow's hierarchy of needs of having some shelter, having some food, having human connection. We're having to become these weird type of people selling things on LinkedIn and trying to create audiences and trying to get attention because we need money for our basics. And then we're diagnosing ourselves with problems that are completely natural. If you're not depressed or you haven't got ADHD, I would say I would be surprised. I'm not surprised that people have these symptoms. It seems like such a big problem, doesn't it?
Let's
see what Mark said here on here. The issue we have is that GPs and psychiatrists are not trained in nutrition, and so the default recommendation is stimulant medication. There's no money to be made by the big pharma companies in promoting nutrition. I would recommend everyone getting their bloods done to understand deficiencies. I'm with you, James. My wife's a doctor, and she sees it quite a bit. James, your wife works as a
nurse.
Head nurse as well. So GPs,
maybe this is changing.
Haven't got time, have they?
I think it's changing. Don't quote me, I'm not sure.
James, I went to the doctor the other day. They've got like 5 minutes to spend with you. They've got a revolving door of people.
But in terms of nutritional, I think they're trying to increase, because
education,
something like half. In terms of education around nutrition, I think they. Again, don't quote me, but I think it was like a day or half a day in terms of the nutrition, and in terms of the 5-year, 6-year course, in terms of a medical degree, that was the amount of time spent on nutrition.
And we know, James, don't we, in terms of giving people nutritional information on the basics of a balanced diet, we can argue about the food pyramid and whether that's like a big pharma conspiracy, but there's one thing: people knowing what to eat or what's good for them, and there's a whole nother issue of actually being able to do it. You could say to someone, right, this is the diet that you should eat, and you need to do this amount of exercise, but the environment that you're in can pull you back to a default of, grab a McDonald's, I haven't got time to work out because I've just done a 12-hour shift and it's a long commute and I need to get back and I'm starving and the kids are crying. But
listen, people are in, survival mode. Not everybody, but the majority of people are in survival mode. And like, you come at them with these kind of like, you should be eating better, should be moving more, exercising, breath work, meditation, cold exposure, blah, 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 blah. It's like, shit, man, I'm trying to bloody survive here. So, you know, we can all get kind of on our soapboxes and pontificate all we like and say this is, but is the bandwidth there? You know, and when the bandwidth isn't there, then
there's a lot of information, isn't there, James?
Well, the default is just to go, well, I'm looking for answers here. I'm going to scroll until I find something that goes, oh shit, that's what I was looking for. And then you go down that route and then you realize that wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And then you're off on that quest again. So, you know, we're just in this maelstrom of information being fired at us by marketing companies, and with the latest thing, the answer to all of our problems. And we're looking for answers. I mean, when you're in pain, when you're feeling tired all the time, when you're waking up in the morning feeling like you haven't slept, you go, it's got to be better than this. But I think there's a conditioning element as well, as like, if you've lived like that for a period of time, there's an acceptance that that is your lot, that there isn't any alternative, that, you know, you just go, well, this is me. This is what I've got to look forward to for the next 30, 40, 50 years of my life.
Yeah.
So, you know, where
Mark's
do you go
right,
with that?
Isn't he, James? Mark's right about these problems being extremely lucrative. If we look at, you know, the diabetes industry, the depression industry, the Viagra industry, the ADHD meds industry, managing, I said it for many, many years, that managing ill health is extremely lucrative. When it comes to the health,
my experience of this, when I first started my career, I worked at a GP referral scheme. And I was getting people coming in who had to beg their GP for a prescription for exercise. So, you know, we had a gym there where people would get, you know, a couple of quid for a session in the gym if they came in with their prescription. The majority of the GPs wanted to write a prescription for medication. And as I said, they had to literally beg them. And if they didn't know about the scheme, they wouldn't know. But the ones that did had to go and say, look, I would like to go and do some exercise. I want to do something for myself. And the GP, depending on the GP, they would go, well, I don't believe in it.
Yeah. Or the money's not in it, James, because I know I had clients that were working as pharma sales reps, and they would go round to GPs, taking them out for dinner, you know, smoozing, and they are selling them product basically. Because if you're a pharma company, you're investing loads of money into research, then something's got to pay that back. And you're going to do better financially when you're managing a symptom over a long period of time. I remember I used to have clients and they used to come and I say, yeah, I've been on blood pressure tablets for the last like 25 years. I'm just like, really? It's like, yeah, my doctor said I can't come off of it because it's dangerous. And well, yeah, it's dangerous because your lifestyle's the same, and this is making somebody a lot of money. Yeah,
and at the again, what we're not doing is kind of, you know, rallying against medication, because clearly, you know, there's some people that will need to be on it because their lifestyle is such, the condition is such that is the best outcome for them. That's the best thing for them.
And doctors haven't got the time to deal with people on an individual basis. They just haven't got the capacity to deal with it.
It's a lose-lose situation. But you know, clearly there's people that absolutely need to be on the medication. You know, it's the right thing for them. But the other side of the equation is that there are people that don't need to be on it and could be preventing symptoms, lifestyle changes.
Yeah, with other stuff. Mike says, when AI steals all of our jobs, we'll have loads of time to exercise.
Well, there was something that popped up with Elon Musk, wasn't there? There was a video, I think it was called, somebody put up there, I can't remember the name of the gym, but it was like Energize or something like that. And you've just got a load of people in a gym on bikes pedaling, powering the facility. And it's like battery farming. It's like battery farming. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Mark, with this sudden influx and rise of AI that we'll all have so much time on our hands, we won't know what to do with it. But
it's even a weird one with the ADHD and exercise, is that like modern exercise is an unnatural byproduct. Like we've spent most of our evolution trying to conserve energy. And now we're going against that instinct to actually go and burn energy for actual no reason. Like we would have done exercise because we're needing to forage for food, catch prey, or we're trying to move to a different environment. Now it's like, why do I need to? I'm not going anywhere. Why do I need to go for a walk? It doesn't make any sense. Why do I need to move this weight from A to B? There's
no. I mean, the only payoff is clearly there's a health benefit. There's an aesthetic benefit if that's what you're going for, but you've not produced anything. You've not created anything as a result of your effort and labors.
It's maybe it needs to be tied to something. Do you think, James, the exercise needs to be tied to
I mean, I've done laboring jobs.
Doing laboring
and recently,
gardening or something.
And at the end of the day, you've done something. You've lifted up slabs. You've built something. There's something, like I said, tangible at the end of it that you can look back and go, you know what? I feel like I've done a good day's work, and that's the result of it.
Yeah. I actually think with the tech, potentially, I reckon we'll be able to genetically modify ourselves before we even get to that point. So you might have like gorilla strength and leanness from eating leaves, and you won't actually need to do. What if you're already muscular, lean, like a gorilla without doing anything? Like you've just been genetically modified. I don't think people would then need to do any of that, would they?
Yeah, that'd be interesting in terms of longevity benefits.
Probably will come though, won't it, James? Do you think so? Like an elephant type of just strolling around.
But but it's the maintenance of that, isn't it? That's the thing. Unless you can stimulate it in some way that you don't need to. I mean, this is where potentially electrical muscle stimulation comes into it. That you've got this system where the muscles can be stimulated with an impulse. And
but are those tortoises or those massive whales that live to, or sharks that live to like 200 years old, they're not like
Greenland sharks?
They're not on muscle stimulation machines, are they? Or
no, but they're
pumping
swimming,
iron.
They're swimming, and in cold water.
I just think we can be genetically modified. I reckon that's potentially where we're going. But what people do when it'll be an interesting one with the ADHD of what people will do when they potentially don't need to work as much. Will it be even more of a battle for attention, or is this battle of attention just purely based on capitalism at the moment? What if you don't need to earn the money? Will there be the battle for attention still, which can be conducive with that? And will your environment improve to a point where your ADHD symptoms will reduce because you've actually got more fundamental security? I don't think that's going to happen in the short term. Maybe.
I mean, it would be interesting to see where fertility goes and the way in which opposite sexes interact with each other. Same sex clearly, but in terms of reproduction, where that goes, because when you consider everything, it all comes down to sex, doesn't it? In respect of what you can provide, if you're a provider, what you look like, if you're attractive, if you're an attractive prospect physically, mentally, economically, if you're a viable prospect. What will that look like?
That's going to become very distorted, isn't it?
What will it, what will be the
very
purpose?
Strange.
In terms of our mechanisms for motivation. If
you've got
table,
some hot sex robot who's like knows you inside out and your personality, looks human.
Yeah,
it's already happening, isn't it, in Japan and places like that?
Where is the effort in that? If that's a given, if that's something that is programmable and immaterial of your behavior, that will be guaranteed. Where's the accountability piece? That's
what else that leads to is, James, is I'm interested in labels and that feeling, or is it a human tendency to want to label themselves, and why? My initial thoughts is that it lifts shame and guilt. So let's say that you've had certain behaviors and you're diagnosed with something. It makes you feel sort of more normal, like there's not something wrong with you. I guess that's what it's doing. Or can it become like an identity, or is it like you want to be part of a group? What do you think about the whole labeling of symptoms to say, like, I have ADHD, or I'm an alcoholic, or I'm a depressive, rather than saying like I experience ADHD or I experience addiction? Is there a difference there, James?
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting. And it's clearly highly nuanced, but I would like to think that it comes down to the individual in respect of their personality type, that if they were diagnosed, then somebody might look at it and say, well, actually, that explains a lot. There are now tools at my disposal that I can do something about it. I can improve my outcomes, interaction, relationships, the way I live my life, because I now have an answer as to why I am the way that I am.
I don't feel broken anymore.
I'm not broken. This is something that I can now manage. I have answers. And then clearly there's another individual that would go, well, I can't do that because I've got ... whatever diagnoses they have. And there will be people, somewhere in the middle that on certain days are like, God, this is too hard. I'm struggling. And it's, it comes down to the chemical imbalance or, makeup of the brain, etc. And on any given day that can change, that it's not this just linear thing. I'm sure that you start from sort of A here to get to sort of B there, that it looks, a lot like that on any given day, it can be harder, easier, whatever. But I think on the whole, it's a positive that we have these diagnoses. There's an awareness piece, there's an education piece, but it's what you do with that information, I think, that counts. So either, it's, like I said, it's used as a way of disabling you, or it's a way of enabling you. That actually there's methodologies, there's tools that you can use. You can either look at it as a superpower or it's a disadvantage. And again, that comes down to the individual.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? So it was a similar with personality testing, where then people label you a certain type and then you fit into a bracket. First of all, you can feel like, okay, I feel seen, heard, and understood. But then you can, your beliefs do affect your biochemistry. So if there's a bump in the night and I believe in ghosts, my biochemistry is going to be different than if I don't believe in ghosts. So if you believe you've got ADHD, or you believe you're depressed, then that just having that belief changes your biochemistry. Controversial?
Mate, that's your opinion. And who knows? I mean, at the end of the day, it's like we can only make sense of what's going on in our own world and how we respond to certain things. And like I said, I haven't been diagnosed with ADHD, but I have a strong suspicion that I'm somewhere on the spectrum. All I know is that, things that I struggle with on a daily basis, things that, I am okay with. It's an accountability bit that actually, keeping my desk tidy in the office, or keeping the car, my desk looks one way and my car looks something different.
Yeah.
So there's this inconsistency here. There's things that I'm very organized at, and other things that it's just like, it's all too much. So
I don't know about you, James, but even with your clients that you've had, we've had hundreds of clients, haven't we, in the health and well-being sphere over the years. That I've never had a client where they've said to me, I'm depressed, or I'm anxious, or I've got ADHD, where it's not logical that you've got this. It's like not a surprise. It's like we get to the crux of it. It's like, okay, you've been sexually abused as a kid, or you've got some weird dynamic growing up, or you're under financial pressure, or you're isolated, or you've been eating a certain way for a long period of time and your body's changed and your biochemistry is never like oh my God, yeah, you're a depressed person, you're ADHD. It's like, no, it's completely logical. I would be surprised if you weren't depressed, or I would be surprised if you didn't have ADHD. It's more on those terms rather than the opposite. So I think there's so much we'll learn as time passes on in the future with this technological transformation that we're going to see. That environment matters, doesn't it? I know with the Dr. Gabor Mate did the test with the rats, and he's given them, I think it was like cocaine or heroin or something. You have like one rat, he gets addicted to having the cocaine or heroin. It just puts the same rat in a playground with other things to do, other people to interact with, and it stops taking the cocaine and heroin.
Yeah.
It's the environment's causing the behavior, and then the biochemistry of your brain is changing, and then your behaviors are changing. Because how can my addictions completely dissipate when I'm in a completely different environment? And they do. It's like my screen time goes pretty much to nothing. I'm connected with people. I'm in a different headspace. I'm eating different foods. I'm outside. It's probably more people connection. I reckon there's a lot of loneliness, isolation, even people who have jobs. Just because you go into an office, it doesn't mean you're connected.
And an interesting thing is, and something I've experienced lately, and I'm sort of just taking stock of it, is my impatience with people and certain things, and like responding, and if they say they're going to do something, doing it, and when they don't, being intolerant of that. And I'm kind of, sitting with that a little bit. And I think because it's been done either, via text or messenger or whatever, that the expectation is different. You lose something in the message. It's not face to face. Even if it was a phone call, you'd be able to get a better understanding of that person's situation, as opposed to this very kind of sanitized version of what you would get through like an email or a text or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, if we are in person and we are interacting with each other, you can have that, and you can clearly get an understanding of where that person's at emotionally, workload, whatever. So that's a really interesting thing that's kind of occurred to me lately, is my expectations is skewed by not knowing the context, or not having that, to be able to see the person face to face, get a sense of, where they're at right now, the body language, you can see whether they're under pressure. So, we're being bombarded with this on a daily basis. All these assumptions that, well, you've seen the message, why haven't you responded?
Yeah, that makes me think about people and the way we diagnose ADHD, in that we might diagnose somebody based on their inability to focus when they're doing work or practical things. Whereas you and I know that we've had clients, very high profile clients, people that have made a lot of money, very disciplined and focused in one domain, could be
and then
into
complete
making money or
disaster in
business.
others.
Put them in a relationship, or right, you've got to spend 20 minutes and be present with your child. No chance. They can't be present with their child for 5 minutes. So they wouldn't be diagnosed as ADHD because they're hyper focused on certain work task, and that is what's seen as successful in society, but they can't be present in a relationship.
And you have conversations with people who have been very successful and made some serious money, and they would potentially be, there's clearly exceptions to any rule, but they would say it was at the sacrifice, and if they had a regret, it would have been at the sacrifice of family or time spent with the kids or relationships with their partners, etc., etc. And it does, I think, take a level of obsessive focus on the end goal to get to that point where you are that successful that everything else takes a
hyperactivity in a certain direction. But it wouldn't necessarily be diagnosed as ADHD, would it? It seems like we sometimes can diagnose things based on an unnatural context. It's like if a child can't sit in a school system and listen to boring teachers for 6 hours a day, they've got ADHD. It's like, no, that's completely normal that you wouldn't be able to concentrate. It's
an unnatural environment to be in.
Yeah, it's completely unnatural. So it is that, how do we diagnose this? Is it reminds me of the Martin Luther King quote about being, what was it, about being maladjusted? There's nothing wrong with being maladjusted to a broken society.
Yeah.
So
but then what becomes normalized? I mean, over time, things become normalized, and then you stop to question. So because it's normal, because everybody else is doing it, you just go, well, I'm just going to accept it then. But periodically, you kind of take these stops and pause and go, well, why do we do that? What is that all about? But it's just because it's normalized. It's normalized behavior. There's an expectation that everybody then conforms to do that.
Yeah.
Even though it goes against nature, even though it's something that doesn't naturally conform to, these kind of the vibrations that we've evolved to interact with, that it's at odds with who we are, our humanity. And yet, because society has dictated that is what we should be doing, that's what we do. And then we're kind of vilifying people for not engaging with that in the same way because it doesn't conform.
100%. A couple of other things that come to mind are sports and entertainment when it comes to ADHD. I've got a close friend, and the addiction to Twitter and football is at the cost of personal life and finances it's crazy. And I know guys with football, it becomes this obsession, this drama, because it's hitting all the dopamine centers. It's changing every 5 minutes. It's got the community element, the tribalism. It's probably tapping into a lot of, hyperactivity, identity. People they can pay attention to the football, but they might not be able to pay attention to anything else that's important in their life or society.
I mean, you're into, clearly any sport that you grew up with is going to have potentially that same effect. I think it's that sense of belonging. So if you're brought up in a family that watched football, you're brought up in a family that supported Manchester United, then your sense of identity is absolutely anchored to that, the game and the team, because that's who your dad supported, or that's who your mum supported, or that's who you supported as a family. And then going against that brings everything into question in terms of that belonging, in terms of that family unit, in terms of, what and what you're familiar with and comfortable with. So you can see how people will defend that vehemently.
Of course,
because
especially
of what
when
it says
life's
about them as
tough,
an individual.
and that is like escapism
Yeah,
into
because it's an anchor, it's
channeling
a
all
pillar.
of your frustration and your pain and your life and everything into this game where millionaires are running around on a football pitch. The kit changes, the player changes, the manager changes, the stadium changes. You don't even know the people you're sitting next to in the crowd. You're watching it in isolation. You're arguing with strangers online.
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, logically, it's a psychologically strange.
Because when you think that's literally, it's a club in name only, isn't it? That the players you, like you said, the players you grew up with, the manager that was there, the ground even can change. The strip has changed 100 times, if not more, since you were a kid.
Yeah.
And yet it's still what it represents. It's the entity of what it represents, the identity, community, where you grew up. It reminds me of that thing from Only Fools and Horses, where you got Trigger and his broom. I had the same broom for 30 years. It's had 20 different heads and 15 different handles.
Yeah. I reckon there'll be a lot of supporters, James, that would be diagnosed as ADHD, and they can hyper focused on football.
So would you consider that like a religion? Do you think that would be classed as a religion?
I think modern day, I would say it's got that religious aspects to it, isn't it? That following. Yeah, it's definitely got aspects of those sort of community identity. Everybody moving in one direction, the ups, the downs. It's got the drama. It's a real addiction. And then you throw capitalism behind that and it's turned into a money machine. Football makes money off of ADHD.
Yeah.
ADHD is perfect for it, isn't it?
I watch sports sometimes and I catch myself thinking this is just two teams chasing after a ball, whether it be rugby, whether it be football. And like the spectacle of it is just human beings running around passing this thing and trying to get it in the net or get it over the post or touch it down over the line. And the thousands of millions of billions of people that interact with this spectacle and what it represents. And the skills of the players, but then it's the sponsorship deals, it's the money that's then generated a result of this engagement is endlessly fascinating for me.
Yeah. I think there's a fascination with just mastery in general, isn't there? Whether you're looking at a painting or you see football or a sport as like chess, like real life chess. People say MMA it's like chess with dire consequences, basically. That's what it's like. You're making chess moves ahead of what you're doing. To get your nose
broken playing chess. But I think if you've played the game, I mean, I've played a lot of sports in my time. You then get an elevated appreciation for when you see.
You know what's going on. Then. You can understand the nuance of the patterns of play and how technical and hard it actually is. Yeah, it's a completely different appreciation.
It is.
It's more the societal relationship to it, where we've become a society of like sheep and spectators rather than participants. And this is like the bread and circus of today, isn't it? The sports, the entertainment, the Netflix, the Premier League. It's turned into an unbalanced, I would say, distraction from fundamental problems in our lives. And we're all sort of suffering all different symptoms, whether that's
it's a release,
attention, depression, anxiety, obesity, disconnection in relationships. There's all sorts of symptoms that we're all suffering on some level. to do with the way we've sort of organized our society. But I guess it's not a static thing, is it, James? We're evolving into something. AI is going to play a big part in that.
Yeah.
Like Mark said, it'll be interesting to see how, I'll be fascinated to see how people adapt and what happens to these symptoms when our environment starts to shift.
What we haven't really touched on, we'll just talk about briefly, is that interesting dichotomy of celebrity. Now, back in the day, if you were a celebrity, majority of people would know if they'd seen a film or a TV program, or they'd been in the newspaper or a magazine, whatever, that there would be a fairly kind of even spread of people that knew that particular celebrity, knew that individual. Whereas now, with the advent of YouTube, you can have a whole subsection of celebrity that if you are a consumer of YouTube channels, you would know, and you would have invested emotionally, and you would, if that person turned up on a game show or, you know, anything, you would go, because you have a relationship with them. I may not know who the hell they are. So you've now got these kind of, these disparate factions of people that have no idea, and ones that are like totally emotionally invested. And then you've got this kind of push and pull of those factions of people that will, you know, travel huge distances to go and see that YouTuber, and other people, because they've not interacted with that, would not give a shit about going to see that person, because you've got no relationship with them whatsoever. Whereas I'm saying before, there would be more of a kind of a spread, that if they'd have been in a mainstream movie, a blockbuster, or, you know, as I said, in a newspaper, whatever, that more people, or a more level playing field of people, would have known about that individual. So this is kind of interesting juxtapositioning now of these channels, of people knowing absolutely nothing about that and people being total fans.
How does that relate to ADHD, James?
I have no idea. That's just a weird, that's an observation on my part. We went off on a tangent. But no, just
that's your ADHD kicking in there. You've gone off on some random tangent.
I'm on squirrel mode.
But no, thanks guys for showing up. Cheers, Mark.
Thank you,
Mark.
Mark.
It'll be interesting to see how you go with your quest with the nutrition change.
Good luck,
with
mate.
ADHD coming off of meds, because I know where people would take meds, and there are always withdrawal symptoms as well, isn't there, with people coming off of certain medications. So yeah, you've got to be careful of that stuff. But very interesting conversation. Environments, times are changing very quickly, aren't they, James? So we have pretty much no one's got no idea how it's going to go.
No.
But sometimes you do have to put a few plasters on your symptoms until, you know, environments change, and you're sort of out there trying to survive, aren't you? So whether that's taking weight loss drugs or meds, and it gets you through a certain environment or period of time, then there's really no wrong or right on that one.
It's needs must.
Okay, guys, take care, James, and
you,
we'll
mate.
see you. Bye-bye.
Much love, everyone.